San Diego County's South Bay has been drowning in sewage from across the border. In this special edition of Earth 8 Cross-Border Contamination, we take a look at this crisis that has impacted San Diego for decades. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm Neda Irampour. Over the next half hour, we're going to look into where the runoff is coming from, how it's impacting the health of people who live in the South Bay, and how it's destroying many of the businesses who count on tourism here. Also, what, if anything, is being done about it all?
We're just used to this funky smell in there. It smells like poop.
We have a sewage treatment plant that's on the brink of collapse.
Just bad stuff that no one should be breathing or having contact with.
I don't even let my dog walk on the beach right now.
It's so egregious. No more. No more.
The special edition of Earth 8 starts now. There are four main reasons for the cross-border contamination, and it starts in Mexico. That's where the sewage system cannot handle Tijuana's growing population. There's a sewage treatment plant in Punta Bandera, which is just 6 miles south of the San Diego border, and that's where most of Tijuana's sewage goes. And the mayor of Imperial Beach tells us they treat it with just some chlorine. And at this point, about 40 million gallons of sewage per day goes down a hill right into the ocean. Think about that, 40 million gallons per day. And that number has nearly doubled in just 10 years. And when there's a south swell, which often happens in the summer, all of that sewage gets pushed north towards San Diego. Another part of the problem is in Mexico, where some of these smaller, poorer communities have these sewage channels, and whatever gets flushed goes directly into the channel untreated, and that flows into the ocean. We're going to dive a little bit deeper by taking you there in just a moment. But also, let's talk about the U.S. side, the Tijuana River estuary. This whole area, notorious for flooding by sewage when it rains, sending bacteria levels across the South Bay soaring. But it has been flooded almost daily lately, in part due to heavy rainfall earlier in the season, but many times Mexican authorities tell our local leaders that they have failures at their crumbling treatment site, so we see our river levels rise. This is all contaminated sewage water that goes down the Tijuana River Valley and into the Pacific Ocean. Then there's the South Bay International Wastewater Treatment Plant. This is in San Ysidro. This was first created to help treat some of the sewage from Mexico before it gets into the river valley and the ocean. But because of their growing populations in TJ, all of that sewage is backing up. It is literally inundating the wastewater treatment plant. We'll show you how the rapid growth of their population is causing many pipe problems with a tour of that plant coming up. So now let's take you to this neighborhood just south of our border where homes, schools, and playgrounds line a sewage channel. We wanted to come to the source of the pollution that affects people on both sides of the border. Here we are in Tijuana, and in this channel, sewage comes running this way. Anytime people flush the toilet, it comes right here. The trash that's on the streets ends up right here. Plastic bottles, wrappers, clothes, toys, you name it, all of that going downstream into the ocean. This channel is about 1/3 of a mile south of the border from San Diego.
And this is, a lot of people who live
up there
and flush the toilets, that all of this comes down.
Comes down through the community known as Los Laureles in Tijuana.
So there's no doubt this is sewage, this is unhealthy, and it's going
and
into
all
the
these
ocean.
people, it crosses through here and goes down to the Tijuana River and then down to the ocean.
Faye Crevichet, the Policy and Communications Director with Wild Coast, guided us as we carefully stepped through the sludge.
Watch where you're stepping.
All to get a first-hand look at the cross-border contamination.
There's no pipes going anywhere.
There's no pipes.
Where else would it go? I mean, what other option? Is there a treatment plant anywhere near
Yeah,
here?
no.
We haven't seen significant rain in a while, so these water levels are very low, but we can still see the sewage and we can certainly smell it. In fact, as we were about to interview Juan Benitez.
You know when the rain? When
Okay, what was that? A little spray that happens?
Juan lives near this neighborhood, and despite the waste in our faces and at our feet, he tells us he's seen a lot of improvement since Wild Coast installed a boom, because at least there are far fewer plastics now moving through the waters. This boom moves up and down as the water levels rise and drop, and it has a grate underneath to keep the bigger objects from continuing downstream. Juan works for Wild Coast, picking up the trash that gets captured in the boom and in this channel. And his team encourages the people who live here to do the same.
It's very important, the system. Yeah, we catch a lot of 1,000 kilos.
They fill up what they call super sacks, 6 of these in one day full of recyclable plastic.
That is what we're trying to stop the plastic from getting to the ocean.
This gets recycled and earns them some money. Much needed money in this impoverished community where Faye has gotten to know the people. She says a lot of them live off of just $3 a day. Since the homes are built on the hillside and not by large developers like most places in the U.S., there's not much of a plan for sewage, besides having a few pipes send it down to the channel. The channel runs in between homes and a school. While the smell of waste can get overwhelming, Faye says most people here just get used to it. Solving the sewage issue is a huge task, so Wild Coast crews are grateful to at least stop some of the trash from continuing into the Tijuana estuary and then the ocean. Right now, mayors in the San Diego region are calling on Governor Gavin Newsom to declare a state of emergency over the sewage crisis in the South Bay. As of November, Governor Newsom has not decided this is a state emergency, and he says it's a federal issue. Now the California Coastal Commission is looking to President Biden for a federal disaster declaration after nearly 2 years of consecutive beach closures. We spoke to Imperial Beach's mayor, Paloma Aguirre, who has dedicated her life to resolving this.
Honestly, it's the worst it's ever been. The sewage crisis is affecting not just our coastal waters, but it's affecting our quality of life. It's affecting our economy. It's affecting the air we breathe in. And now people are flat out getting sick without even entering the water. So that's why we've been calling on our governor and our president to take action.
And the impacts of this, people's health, I mean, their survival here, it's not just about, oh, we can't go surf today. There's more to this, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we are a coastal town, we're a surf town, we're a tourist dependent town, right? And we've had our beach closed every single day this year. We had it closed during 4th of July, Labor Day weekend, Memorial Day weekend. I mean, our town is suffering. Our local mom and pop shops are suffering. Our hotels are suffering. And that's just the economic side of this issue. And then we have the public health side of things, where now we know, because of a study done by Scripps Institution of Oceanography, that the pollution's not just in the water, but it's in the air and can travel miles inland. So it's extremely concerning.
Also, let's talk about Mexico. Obviously, in Tijuana, we know this whole area is booming. There's a lot more people that live there that are sending their sewage down to this plant that sends chlorine, you said, into the water, and that's it. So as that population grows, what needs to happen? I mean, a complete revamp of their system?
Look, long term, absolutely. There needs to be significant investments in their wastewater infrastructure. They have a combined stormwater and sewage infrastructure system that's technology from the 50s. From the 50s, they haven't revamped any of it, and they keep building and building and building on top of it. And it's really interesting how interconnected we are, because our housing crisis is really pushing people to move to Tijuana and search for lower rents, lower housing, lower cost housing. But the infrastructure hasn't been keeping up with the need.
If you had the ear of the governor and the president right now, what would you want to say to them?
We need the governor to be our champion. This is not rocket science. We need him to take a stand for the Californians who live in this classic Southern California beach town that have not had access to our coast or our waters in over 2 years. I mean, no other city in this great state of California is going through what we are going. We need his help. We need for him to stand in front of us and lead the charge, asking our president to allocate immediate funding.
Thank you so much, Mayor, for your time. Thank you for explaining all of this.
I'm starting to get mad.
Coming up after the break, we hear from Serge Dedina, the current executive director of Wild Coast and former mayor of IB for 8 years.
They could have fixed this problem 5 years ago. They spent so much time doing paperwork and having meetings that the problem got way worse.
He tells us the impact of the sewage on the city, his nonprofit, and his own health. Repairs and expansion of the International Wastewater Treatment Plant at the U.S. Mexico border are now expected to cost $900 million. That's according to the International Boundary and Water Commission. President Biden has requested $310 million in emergency funding that would supplement the $300 million that Congress previously approved. The water gets tested here. This is one of 45 local beach sites they test daily. You'll see red dots on the county's website when bacteria levels are too high and beaches have to be closed. To measure the levels of bacteria, San Diego County officials do this. They scoop up samples from the waves every morning. The county is the first in the nation to begin using a new droplet digital polymerase chain reaction. That's a DNA testing method. It offers more rapid results on the same day. Damaged equipment at the International Wastewater Treatment Plant here on the U.S. side is also contributing to the problem. CBS 8's Brian White takes us inside.
I just got done talking with an operations manager for the International Boundary Water Commission, and he says this treatment plant is being overwhelmed by the amount of sewage coming from Tijuana, by the simple fact that more of it is coming in than this place was built to handle. Since August, this wastewater treatment facility has been inundated with excess flows from Mexico due to a pipeline break south of the border. To give you an idea, this plant was designed to treat 25 million gallons per day, but with the excess flows, it's been dealing with another 5 million gallons on top of that every day.
That excess flow causes extra wear and tear in the plant. It brings trash and sediments. They've damaged some of the equipment, they've clogged the tanks, so we've had to take them out of service.
All 5 tanks in the primary treatment area, which is where solids are skimmed out initially, have been taken offline to be cleaned.
We're still treating the same amount of flow as we did before. We just aren't able to remove some of the solids as much as we'd like to.
Fortunately, other areas of the facility are still treating the wastewater, which is ultimately discharged into the ocean 3.5 miles off the coast through an underwater pipeline.
This is our secondary treatment, and this is where we use bacteria to treat the wastewater. It eats the organics and some of the dissolved solids.
Mike Harris, who's lived in IB on and off for 60 years, is frustrated too.
It's irritating. That's what it is. And I don't even let my dog walk on the beach right now. I don't want her to catch something.
One of the tanks will be back online in about a week, and all 5 should be operational by June as authorities work with Mexico to fix the broken sewer pipeline.
This is traumatizing for IB. Our lifeguards can't go in the water. So if they rescue somebody who goes in the water, they could get sick.
In Imperial Beach, Brian White, CBS 8.
The sewage runoff has really hurt people's health here in IB. We spoke with Serge Dedina, the executive director of Wild Coast and the former mayor of IB for 8 years. He has gotten so sick here, they had to move their Wild Coast office from IB to Del Mar for the safety of him and his staff.
The sewage problem there, has it made you sick?
Yeah, I've gotten so sick. It's really impacted negatively my health. 2 sinus surgeries, ear surgery. I had a tube put in my ear to deal with all the discharges, but then they had to go and surgically remove that. Super painful. And gastrointestinal disease, just stuff I don't even want to talk about. My kids have been to urgent care. It's really been a series of illnesses going back more than 20 years, but really accelerating since the mega spill of 2017 and since things have just gotten exponentially worse.
Kids, your life obviously impacted everyone in IB who's anywhere near that water.
And it's just devastated these communities that are the beach playgrounds for all of South San Diego. Millions of people are at the beach in Coronado, Silver Strand, and IB. This summer, those beaches were empty. People couldn't go in the water. Lifeguards devastated because they couldn't go in the water to rescue people, or they risk getting sick making a rescue. Camp Surf, YMCA Camp Surf that I went to as a kid, my kids went to as a kid, thousands of kids, fewer going there, and they have to drive to La Jolla to get their kids in the water. The junior lifeguard program in IB, that's a lifeline for so many kids, teaching them water safety and then training them to get jobs as lifeguards so they can have a good job, canceled, right? So it's just devastated the economy, but social fabric of our communities.
What do you think's been the holdup or blame game? What?
Look, it's bureaucracy on steroids where people believe that process and paperwork is more important than actually helping serve the public good. And think about it, the United States has been more concerned about filling out a report than making sure our Navy SEALs don't get sick. The United States government is more concerned about doing an environmental impact assessment to document the impact of a sewage treatment plant to treat the sewage, rather than stopping the sewage from making our Border Patrol agents, our lifeguards, and our kids sick, right?
Why do you think there has not been a response?
You know, none of us can understand what is holding up the governor and President Biden and Mexican authorities from dealing with this. It just doesn't make any sense because it's such a fixable problem. It's just a sewer system. Look, I was a small town mayor. We weren't allowed to discharge any sewage in the ocean. In California and San Diego, if you discharge any sewage in the ocean, it's $1.50 a gallon. But Mexican authorities can get away with discharging as much sewage as they want, and they know that the United States government won't say anything.
We're obviously here in Del Mar, not in IB. Wild Coast had to move?
Wild Coast had an office for 21 years in Imperial Beach from 2000 to 2021, but during the pandemic, things got so bad with sewage pollution, and even before that, that I got sick and our staff started getting sick, sinus infections, and the stench of sewage was so overpowering that we just decided not to renew our lease and found a cheap office in Del Mar as well. And so that's a shame because it was nice to be across the street from the pier in IB and be right on the border, but that's not possible.
San Diego South Bay is sick of the stink.
Knowing that the air isn't very great doesn't make you want to be here.
Yeah, makes me want to go back home.
Coming up in this Earth 8 special, what's causing the toxic smell and the dangers of breathing the air? In a treaty signed in 2022, Mexico committed $144 million to fixing sewage infrastructure, including the Punta Bandera wastewater treatment plant. Now this is CBS 8 archive video from 1980 when former Imperial Beach Mayor Brian Bilbray, along with several city council members, got into bulldozers trying to block the flow of the sewage from the Tijuana River from entering the ocean. People concerned about the wildlife in the Tijuana River estuary staged a sit-in, including a then 16-year-old Serge Dedina, who we featured earlier in this show.
Right now, you're trespassing private property. You're trespassing 5150
So these two groups clashed. They got into that fight. We spoke with Mayor Bilbray on why it got so heated.
Well, we contacted all these agencies, state, county, whatever. We kept getting this, it's not our department. Go talk to the State Department. Go talk to EPA. Go talk to the water quality. Everybody was passing the buck. So what we did is I sent a letter to all of these agencies saying, I know it's not your department or your jurisdiction, but we just want you to know on this day, on this morning, we're going to go down there with heavy equipment and we're going to dam up the sewage and try to do something about it. But we know it's not your problem.
He says this video highlights the frustration over sewage dumping not being taken seriously in 1980 and still today. Of course, hearing about beaches closing and bacteria in the water can certainly impact the many businesses here. They're not seeing as many people visiting and spending money, which is definitely hitting them hard.
This building's been here since 1886 because it was the horse stables for the Hotel del Coronado before, and then it became a bar. The bar has been around forever, and a lot of people donated their plaques, their Navy plaques.
We visited the Old Plank Inn on nearby Palm Avenue, where the co-owner tells us the past couple years have been extremely difficult. So many consecutive days of closures at the beaches, and visitors have stopped showing up. They have empty parking spaces outside, empty chairs at the bar, at what should normally be a very busy location, especially during the holidays.
I want San Diego to know that the beach may be closed, but the businesses aren't. I want to reemphasize that and have people come on down, support us, because we need the support.
Martin Mattis says his staff gets sick often from being near the water. Many of them live in Imperial Beach, so he always has to make sure he is overstaffed to replace the people who might have to call out. But these businesses are sticking together. They want everyone to still show up and support them. A new air pollution sensor in San Ysidro is now detecting levels of hydrogen sulfide, which is one of the reasons for that awful smell. But more importantly, it's a risk to people's health. CBS 8's Ariana Cohen with what these sensors are now discovering floating in the air.
People in the South Bay have been complaining about a smelly odor in the air for years. Now, data from new monitors confirms their fears.
We're just used to this funky smell in the air. It smells like poop.
kind of just smells like there's like trash above my head.
Just days after it was installed, a new air pollution control sensor behind a fire station in San Ysidro detected levels of hydrogen sulfide, one of the main chemical components of sewer gas.
And we're seeing numbers of 0.045, so about 1.5 times the standard.
Which he says this proves the air is unhealthy to breathe. The sensor collects data every hour. He says in the 3 days they measured, it exceeded the threshold 3 times. And that's not something the girls visiting from Missouri want to hear.
So knowing that the air isn't very great doesn't make you
doesn't
want to
really-
be here.
yeah, makes me want to go back home.
People flooded social media with comments writing, "I have been trying to move out of here for a long time. The smell is unhealthy and now so frequent. This odor is toxic. My wife and I have felt sick." The Air Pollution Control District plans to use this new data to ask for help from state and federal agencies.
San Diego County's Air Pollution Control District plans to have 6 sensors put out in total in the Tijuana River Valley, Imperial Beach, and other areas of South Bay within the next couple of months. Reporting from Imperial Beach, Ariana Cohen, CBS 8.
There is no doubt this beach community has been hit hard, but it goes beyond Imperial Beach. We've seen multiple closures along the Silver Strand up into Coronado. The water has no boundaries. It's all one ecosystem. That's why city leaders will keep fighting. They're fighting for a cleaner environment, clear water, and fresh air to breathe. Basic rights. The hope is these warning signs will no longer line the coastline and people can come swim, surf, go fishing, and safely enjoy this coastal community. Thank you for watching this Earth 8 special Cross-Border Contamination. I'm Neda Iranpour.